For most photographers, image editing is a struggle that takes disproportionate amounts of time. But can editing your images less make them look better and make you more money? The answer is yes to both. So in this video, I'm going to show you why image processing on easy mode works so well, how it takes frustration out of the whole process, and how it will cut hours of your post-production so you can book more photo shoots. And honestly, this is one of those rare cheat codes like a turbocharged engine. It gives you both more power and better fuel economy. Now to start, you need to understand what this shift actually is so you don't just ship half-processed images to your clients. So the old way was this. You brought the images back from the photo shoot, tried some over-the-top editing technique from Instagram, or browsed through several packs of presets till you found the one that looks half bad. Then pushed some sliders around to try and balance out the crushed contrast or broken skin tones. Basically, you just trusted the internet that an image has to transform from complete garbage to a piece of art after you edit it. Now, I've been in the same boat for quite some time during my 12 years as a portrait photographer. But when I stopped listening to the guys who sold presets and started looking at how the top photographers in the industry work, everything changed. I figured out that editing is not about searching for the right look or style. It's about bringing the image the last couple of steps to where it is exactly the way you intended it to be. And now that I pass this on to my mentorship clients, I see them saving hours in post-production and then use that time to book more photo shoots. I also see them attracting better clients who appreciate the more subtle and thought-out style. So now I'm going to share my editing process with you. There's 3 principles to it, and it's not some recipe with specific settings in Lightroom. That's why it's so great. So principle number 1 is editing is not supposed to be an afterthought. I think film photographers really got this because back in the day, the process was very different and, in my opinion, much better. In the film days, you had to decide the style of your image in 3 steps: picking the film stock, developing the negative, and printing. Now, each step had to be premeditated and intentional because the initial color grade was locked in the film stock, which you picked before even stepping on set. Then the way you developed the negative had to be decided before you took the first shot because the way you exposed depended on the way you intended to develop. And if you did something wrong, the film was ruined and you had to reshoot. Even printing was expensive and very time-consuming, so you didn't have endless opportunities to experiment with different papers or color filters. So how does this history lesson translate to what I do now? Well, I follow the exact same process. First, I make a lot of decisions on style in pre-production. Are the images going to be black and white or color? How do I create color contrast in the image with wardrobe, makeup, backdrop, and props? Do I want the images to look warm or cool, contrasty, or more washed out? Or maybe I'm gonna use some film emulation for a specific look and feel. Second, I decide which of those things will be done in camera and which in post. And you might be thinking now, how am I supposed to know how I want the images to look before I start shooting? Well, it basically just comes down to analyzing other photographers' images and doing your own test shoots. If you ask why enough times, you'll start recognizing patterns in what works well together. Let's say you scroll through Instagram and see an image you like. Just stop and try to figure out what it is that makes the image resonate. Maybe you like the colors. Okay, why? Is it the skin tones? Maybe there's some kind of split toning going on, like blues in the shadows and oranges in the highlights. Okay, now why that works? Maybe it's some specific lighting, or maybe the color palette of the wardrobe makes the color grading shine. Try asking, would that work in a different light or in a different location? And then just do test shots. Grab a friend, try to recreate that look. Once you do that enough times, you'll develop this association of what works together and what looks good to you. And then you'll be able to make those decisions on colors and contrast in pre-production. It is a long process, but it's the only way to develop your style consciously instead of trying to navigate it intuitively. Okay, principle number 2 is editing is not about making huge adjustments to the image. Everyone loves watching Instagram reels about huge transformations, the before and after videos, whether it be about style, food, home renovation, or image editing. The bigger the transformation, the better the video. The problem with such content is that it pushes the narrative that a good image should be transformed in post. And it's completely false. Most of these videos you see are first and foremost intentionally edited to look much worse than what was captured, and then were magically salvaged by the incredible skill of the editor that also somehow has a preset pack on sale. What a coincidence. It's just not how it is in real life. The best images from the best photographers already looked amazing before any adjustments were made. And I get it, it might look like you're exploring things and searching for your own style, but trust me, crazy editing most likely won't be the thing you build your portfolio on top of. So here's my simple process, and I'll be using an image that one of my mentorship clients shot during my 11-week program. Oh, and this goes without saying, but I'm on Capture One. It's infinitely better than Lightroom, but I'll leave this battle for another video. So first, I use the HDR sliders to recover highlights and shadows where I need to. I then use my histogram, exposure, brightness, curves, and levels to set the white point, the black point, and the contrast. Then I set the white balance, either to make it neutral, or I can use it as a creative tool. Then I work on the skin tones. The uniformity tab in Capture One is a beast when it comes to evening out skin or removing some redness. Then as a final step, I add vignette, film grain, and work on the colors with Color Editor and Color Balance. And again, all these adjustments should be minimal and thought out. You should figure out what it is you want to achieve first, and then just execute that, because it's very easy to make the image start breaking apart. If you just start pushing sliders around without understanding where you're going, you often end up in a place where you just crushed your blacks with levels and then recovered the same blacks in the HDR tab, or pushed the contrast with an S-curve and then reduced the contrast in the exposure tab. Similarly, it happens when you use a low-quality preset that crushes the image, and then try to mitigate it by pulling some sliders even more. Make your pre-production carry all the decisions, and then treat post-production as the sauce, and never let your steak drown in the sauce. Now, principle number 3 is editing should not be treated as a glorified marketing tactic. The best photographers don't market editing and retouching as a competitive advantage. Similarly to how good restaurants don't advertise the fresh herbs and spices they use in their dishes. It's a given, and it's just one of many parts that come together to create the results clients appreciate. And the process should stay in the kitchen. The mental model I want you to take from this principle is benefits, not features. And it's how Apple does its marketing. They never talk about features. What they do is they find a perspective of how those features benefit the user and talk about it instead. So for example, you'll never hear about a 5000 milliamp hour battery, which is a feature. And instead, you'll be presented with a battery that lets you watch YouTube for 12 hours, which is a benefit. Now, I've seen many photographers bragging about spending hours upon hours in editing or trying to justify their pricing by explaining how hard and time-consuming editing is. The truth is, no one gives a shit about how hard you work. The good thing is, you can always translate those features into benefits that clients actually care about. So I spend hours pushing sliders in Lightroom because I have a distinct style you won't find anywhere else. It takes 5 hours to cull the images because my editorial process turns scattered images into a curated visual story. I do a high quality skin dodging and burning because in the images you look the way I naturally see you and not how the camera captures you. And once you figure out those benefits, the next step is to just forget your current process that leads to them and reverse engineer the most efficient way to achieve it. And when you start thinking about it from this perspective, you might create a completely different workflow to what you have now that leads to the same benefits, only without the hassle. So if you know you want to create a distinct visual style, and you try to achieve that with some over-the-top editing, maybe scrap that and try finding your go-to color palette, or a lighting setup you're gonna stick to. Or maybe you love how the skin looks when you push some greens into the specular highlights. There are many different paths you can take here, but intentionality and understanding what actions translate to what results are at the core of it. So here's what I want you to take from this video. If you can get better looking images in a third of the time, you win. And you can charge more for that, even though it took you less time and effort. You can then use that time you saved to book more photo shoots. It's a basic business principle. One of the easiest ways to increase profits is to decrease COGS, or cost of goods sold. So don't idealize labor and just look upstream from your current situation. I guarantee that the hard editing stems from lack of pre-production. Why easy mode editing works is because it was never meant to be this process of finding custom solutions for every image individually. It's about finding your unique way to pick a film stock, develop the negatives, and print it. Then just optimize the process and stick to it. And if you look at the big picture, your stylistic choices come way before editing, with light being one of the core components of style. So if you want to dive into that, click the video on the screen. It's going to change how you think about portrait lighting. I also have a free 30-day email course where I break down those hidden mechanics behind top-level photography. All the links are in the description. Hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.